Live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Code and Supply podcast. Yay! Today we have Aaron Patterson, who goes by the handle Tenderlove on the internet and is a member of the Rails core team, Ruby core team, and I'll let him introduce himself a little more thoroughly in a second. I'm your regular host, Justin Reese, and with me again is Alex and Tiffany. So, Alex, why don't you say hi to everyone here?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a co-host of this podcast. You can find me at Alex Shadoy on Twitter. Thanks for listening.
And I am Tiffany White. I am a semi-regular person on Code and Supply podcast, and you can find me at TiffanyW_412 on Twitter.
And with us today is our wonderful guest, Aaron, and his tiny hands.
Hi, everybody. My name's Aaron Patterson, and yes, I go by the name Tenderlove on the internet. Yep, I am a Ruby programmer. I'm on the Ruby core team, the Rails core team, and many other projects as well. And I like programming and cats.
Two great things to have. If you don't already have the Per Programmer shirt, we started selling that on the Code and Supply website.
I have one. Yes.
Yeah, we paired up with Lindsay Beta, who did the art for that, and started selling it just recently.
Oh, nice.
But anyways, I want to start with the most fun question, I think. Other than questions about CTAC and GorbyPuff, those will be fun, but I'll save those for later. Where does Tenderlove come from?
Oh boy. Okay. Sorry, I laugh every time I have to tell the story. It's all right. So I was hanging out. Basically, I was hanging out with a bunch of friends of mine, and they all happened to be women. And we were watching a movie, and a friend of mine says, "What is the grossest thing a guy can say to you?" And my other friend says, "I want to make tender love to you." And so I registered the website and made it a technical blog, and I sent my friend a link because I knew she would freak out. And she's like, I was like, "You got to check out this website. It's really great." And she responds to me as like, "No, I'm not checking it out at all." And I'm like, "No, really, just look." And then she saw, and it was just, my blog. So like that was, I mean, basically the whole name came from me just, I don't know, trolling my friends. That was basically it. The name was too long on IRC, so I just shortened it up, and that's that. Also, well, and I don't know, I stuck with it. To be honest, like I stuck with the name because I always feel like when you see programmer handles, I mean, I think a lot of people go by their real name these days, but typically programmer handles will always be something like, I don't know, I'm awesome this, or, like super hacker or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. And I like this name because it's like, it's just not serious, right? Like it's just,
yeah.
It's like in the 90s when everyone was like Viper Skull.
Yes.
Like their hacker names were Viper Skull and
what was that, like
Super Death?
What was the guy from the hacker movie, like
Crash Override?
Crash Override, Zero Cool.
Yeah, Zero Cool.
Okay.
Mr. The Plague.
I think if the team was Zero Cool and Crash Overload and Tenderlove in that movie, I actually think it might have fit right in, actually.
Yeah, so that's that is it. Is just, I don't know, having fun. That's all.
Yeah. Having fun jokes are important. Justin will tell you, every time we do like a build night, most of my projects are just jokes. Like I just come up with something that I think it'll be funny, and I make a like quick website or something.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like I'm afraid people take programming too seriously or just like do especially on the internet. It seems like people are very serious about stuff, and I don't like to be that way. It's just
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just programming, right? Like, it's much more.
I'm gonna get
like,
that on a T-shirt.
I mean, it's much more important, like the connections we make with people or like human interactions. You know what I mean? Like that's really way more important to me than the code that we're working on necessarily. So, I mean, that's why I try to keep it light. You know?
Yeah, and like I definitely agree with that. It's I had something I was gonna say and I forgot what it was. I'm sorry.
Well, that leads me into kind of something I want to talk about with Aaron is your friendly and fun demeanor is one of the better things about basically the Ruby community, and like you're definitely unique in your own way where you create Friday hugs and it just can make a lot of great puns on Twitter and still be taken with.
Great.
Show me one pun. Show me one pun that isn't great. Actually, if Emma were on today, if she weren't sick, she would tell me a few that aren't great. But you still manage to be held in high esteem, and I think that's kind of important. Do you do some of what you do, with this attitude, this fun attitude, intentionally, or is it just a product of who you are naturally, and it just shines through, or what do you think? Or is it a mix? I'm sure.
It's definitely a mix. Like, I mean, I really love programming a lot, and I love to do it. I mean, I love to do serious work and serious stuff. But it's just if you're always serious all the time, it can get kind of dull. And it's the same as if you're always doing if you're only doing jokes all the time too. It's like I just like to change. I like to change that stuff up. Two of my favorite things are, laughing and also learning. Those are my two favorite things. So if I can make people laugh or teach someone something, then it makes me feel good. So that's why I like to mix it up. Is those are just two of my favorite things to do, and if I can share that with other people, then I don't know. I feel good about it.
That reminds me.
Oh,
Sorry, that reminds me of what I was going to say. Yay, I remembered. So yeah, you're talking about like at the end of the day, where developers need to where it's about the people that we work with. I think there's this sort of feeling generally within programming communities that programming is like this really strict sort of science-y thing that's like divorced from human interaction, but basically what we're actually doing is making software for people. So it's like kind of the other way around. So it's good to have to like keep that human element of like lighthearted and all that stuff, and keep that in your mind as well.
Yeah, I think programming is there's a huge spectrum of things that you can do when you're as a programmer. I mean, you can go all the way down to just only mathematical type theoretic stuff that is totally divorced, or you can just you can go to the other end of the spectrum where you're not doing any of that stuff at all. But
yeah,
any place in there when you can, I think, when you better relate to other people, you can convey what you're actually trying to accomplish better, regardless of where you are on that range, I guess. So yeah, being able to relate to people and laugh with people and get along together is something that's extremely important to me.
Yeah. And to laugh at puns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I relate to this feeling of being super, I think super motivated by making people laugh, and I was always the kind of kid that would put that at the forefront of my priorities and make people laugh over getting good grades and stuff. Were you kind of like a goof off, is like me, or what do you? I don't want to spend like the whole show talking about you being like a goofy, funny person, but I just want to like find out like this. I'm just thinking about like how I was when I was a kid and how I liked to make people laugh, and how, like you said, that's one of your favorite things. That's just always been one of my favorite things.
Honestly, I never really thought about that when I was I don't know, when I was younger. When I was in school, I didn't really do that so much. I think I was pretty shy. Like, I mean, the reason I do it now is because the reason I started doing that type of stuff, or just having fun at work, is mainly because I was really, really bored. And I was just so bored at work that I would just like, I don't know, come up with, my mind would just wander all day, right? Like, I'd be compiling some Java code for like 10 minutes, and what am I going to do? What am I going to do for 10 minutes, right? so I'm just sitting there thinking about weird stuff all day. So I don't know, like then I just started telling people that weird stuff, and I think I've always thought about weird stuff. It's just that I didn't tell anybody about it until I got older. I was too self-conscious. When I was younger, I was too self-conscious to tell people about it, but now I'm just like, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I was going to say until that last sentence that it sounds like programming drove you to insanity.
You could probably say that. That might be true.
Or at least Java's compile time drove you that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So I guess let's kind of talk about how you got in that position, because I know the Friday Hug came about because you were bored, because you worked at home every day and you were lonely on Fridays, and you just wanted to hug the internet. So what's your career been like in terms of remote? It looks like you're at home now,
yes.
Or you have a really cool office that lets you bring a cat tree and SeaTac with you. But how long have you been working remotely?
Let's see. I'm currently working at Red Hat, and I've been working for them for over a year. I want to say maybe a year and 3 months or so, and then before that, I was working at AT&T, and those are the two jobs. These two jobs are the only ones that I've done remotely, and that would be, I want to say 5 or 6 years now. Probably 6 years. I think I was at AT&T for 4 or 5 years, so 6 years. Yeah.
And what is your overall like career arc so far? Like, where did you get started in the world of programming in terms of professional, and where are you now? Like, what is your role now?
Sure. So I started. I got my first job programming when I was 18. I'm 35 now, so I've been programming for about 17 years professionally, I guess. I got a job doing programming in order to pay for college, and then I dropped out of college, essentially, to continue programming. I mean, I started out just as essentially a front-end front-end, also back-end web developer. I mean, we were at a very tiny company. I think there were only 2 programmers at the company, so it was like we had to do everything. And then, I don't know, I guess like more and more, as my career has moved forward, I've gone, I guess, farther and farther down the stack of stuff, essentially. So I mean, I can do any of it now, but I get more and more, like, now I'm much more involved in like the internals of the Ruby interpreter rather than, I don't know, writing some JavaScript stuff, right? It seems like that's my career path.
Did you major in computer science when you were going to school?
Yes, that's where I started, was to go through, well, it was actually computer engineering,
Okay.
which is apparently the same thing as computer science, but fewer language requirements. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that's where I was going, and then I dropped out.
How did that affect your job prospects? I mean, you already had a job, didn't you, when you were going to college?
Yeah, I did. I honestly, like, I think I was incredibly lucky. So I do not recommend my career path for anybody. Like, I don't recommend it at all. Like, I was extremely lucky to get that first job, and getting that first job is really what helped me to go along. I mean, I got that job that was in 1999. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've been a programmer all the way through the first bubble, all the way till now. Like, I've been a programmer the entire time, and getting that first experience, or getting that experience with that first job, is really what helped me a lot. But to be honest, like, not having a degree is, to me it was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a bad thing in that I've always felt insecure about myself and my position, because it's like, you don't have a degree, how can you get a job, right? Or how can you maintain a job? But on the other hand, that insecurity has also been an extremely good motivator for me, so I study a lot on my own. So I study a lot of things, I read a lot of books, and it's all because I feel like, well, I never finished school, so I probably ought to learn something, right? So, I don't know, I think if I could go back and do it over again, I'd probably, well, honestly, you know what, if I could go back and do it over again, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it depends on the time, like, it all depends on the time, right? That timing for me was just perfect. I mean, I think a better route is to actually finish school and continue studying afterwards. I'm afraid that if I had gone to school and actually finished my degree, I never would have continued to improve myself, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't think that it hasn't limited me. Not having a degree hasn't limited me, but I also feel like I am an exception. So, I would not tell people to just drop out of school. I think it's a super bad idea.
Okay, cool.
Listen, kids.
Stay in school.
Hey, kids, drop out, smoke cigarettes.
Actually, my last when I worked for AT&T, so it's kind of weird. I worked for first I worked for AT&T Interactive, which was a wholly owned subsidiary of AT&T. Then I worked for AT&T directly, but in order to work for AT&T, I had to reapply for my job, and they made me submit a resume and also fill out fill out a form online, write up a resume and then fill in exactly the same stuff in a form.
Yeah.
So I did that, and it had a checkbox like, have you graduated from school? And I was like, do you have a college degree? And I'm like, oh man, I don't want to lie. So I didn't check it, and they didn't hire me. Like, I got automatically kicked out of the hiring process because of that, even though, like, this was this job was mine. It was mine for sure. It's just that I had to go through these particular roles. And my boss at the time, like, I was like, hey, I just got rejected for this job automatically. And he's like, oh no. So he actually had to talk to the CTO of AT&T about me. The CTO of AT&T about me, and explain why they should hire me, even though I didn't have a degree. So this is what I'm saying. Like, don't if it weren't for where I am today, not having a degree would be a huge hindrance, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I say.
Because you couldn't even get the job that you already have
Yes,
with a degree.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. So, like, I mean, if it weren't for the very fortunate luck, or my luck, then I'd be in a world of hurt right now. So, yeah.
I think it's also important to not discourage people that don't have a degree, because I think more and more people are willing to kind of accept people that don't have a degree or a pretty standard education, because I think, there's so many ways to self-teach programming specifically, that it's changing the tide quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. College is absolutely not the only way to learn how to have this skill. Like, there's tons of great schools out there today that are like, it's fun. You go through those schools, you can do exactly what I do. It's whatever, it's fine. But if you're someone who's out there and is making the choice, like, okay, I'm in school now, should I just drop out? I don't think you should do that.
Yeah. So something you said during that bit is kind of an interesting topic. I think that I've talked to Tiffany about this before, where she did a really good podcast on the Code and Supply. I guess we have like a network where she has her own show about how she didn't feel in place at school. She's Tiffany. Why don't you give Aaron like a 10-second spiel of your bio?
Well, yeah, I'm in school now, and I'm around your age, and it's kind of difficult to feel in place where I'm at. I'm going to Pitt, and I'm a computer science major, and it's a little bit difficult to want to stay when I feel like there are so many other people that have youth as their I don't know, ally, I guess I should say.
Yeah, and
So,
I would say, like, I've encouraged Tiffany to not let feeling out of place stop her from achieving. And something that you said made me kind of think about this subject again, because someone as accomplished as you, Aaron, and you're well known and you're good enough to be on this podcast, but you still have those kind of feelings like you shouldn't be somewhere, and you especially feel them because you don't have a degree. And I remember when we hosted Steel City Ruby here in Pittsburgh, you were nervous to give one of our keynotes. It was just funny to think about someone that's well known and has this outgoing personality being nervous about being on stage, thinking they're not supposed to be there, they're not qualified.
Yeah, I can understand. I can definitely understand the feeling out of place part. I've actually dropped out of college 3 times.
wow.
I don't even know how you logistically do that. I'm not going to comment on it like from an emotional standpoint, but just like logistically, it seems difficult.
Well, I'll tell you, it really. So okay, I don't like. first off, I will tell you that the computer science department at the University of Washington is extremely competitive. And in order to get into the department, you had to have like a 3.9 at least. And my grades were just not that good, right? So I went back to school several times to like try and increase my grades, and I'll tell you, it totally sucked because you're like, I'm in there, and I'm like 7 years older than everybody else there. And I'm just like, hey, everybody. It's kind of awkward because everybody in your class is talking about like your lives don't match up at all, right? I'm like, well, I already have a job. Like I got to worry about paying bills and like just stuff you have to worry about, right? And everybody else in my class is like, oh, just the things I have to worry about are totally different. So it's weird.
It is.
But as far as speaking and stuff is concerned, I don't know. I get yeah, it's speaking always makes me nervous. I think there are people who are better spoken than I am, or more qualified for the job than I am. Like, so I get these weird kind of feelings of like, why am I? Who cares what I have to say? I just tell puns on Twitter. It's fine. Anybody can do that.
And it's funny because Code and Supply is like an organization where we have it's part meetup but part community and part podcasts, things like this. And I often have to convince people that they have something interesting to say. I think that people don't realize that they know something that's useful to someone else. So it's like, yeah, why would someone listen to me? But you know more than basically everyone knows more than someone about something.
Something, yeah.
And you just got to figure out what that something is, and you can talk about it.
I'll tell you, I've got a lot of I was gonna say I have a lot of unfinished blog posts, and I do. They're just all in my head. And I think, hey, I should write a blog post about that. And then I'm like, nobody cares. Why bother? No one's gonna read that anyway. But I think that's probably, I don't know. It's a very bad attitude for me to have. But I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I'm human.
I just found out this week that both Adele and Sia have stage fright, and Adele has basically gone like 3 years without performing in front of a large audience. So you're not alone. You are like the Adele of the Ruby community. That's basically what I'm going to say.
Well, what I do, I'll tell you my. I guess I don't know if it's a secret, but what I do essentially is before I give any talk, I'm always really nervous. So I'm very nervous. But there's a few things I do, and a few of them are practical. Like, one, never bring your cell phone on stage, like, because that'll inevitably somebody is going to call you, but you'll get messages or whatever, and even if your phone just buzzes, it still can mess up the audio with that weird like beeping. You know what I mean? So don't bring your cell phone on stage. Always go to the bathroom first. So I always do that because you don't want to be on stage and have to go to the bathroom. That's like bad news. And that went wrong for me once. And I'll tell you about that later if you care to hear. And then also make sure your pockets are empty, like no change or anything in your pockets, right? So I do that, like that's my ritual, make sure I get all that stuff ready. And I'm still nervous at that time, but I get up on stage and I start giving my talk. And the first, I always tell jokes at the beginning of my talks, and it's because I'm ridiculously nervous, right? Sorry, I just saw my wife in the background. I'm always very nervous when I get on stage, so I tell these jokes to try and loosen myself up and try to get the audience on my side. And then I get into talking about technical stuff, and it's just that, like, so I do that, I tell the jokes to get people with me, and then when I get into the technical stuff, like, I really love, when I get into it, I really love teaching people. Like, I love teaching people about things that I know. So if I can talk about things that I know and help people in the audience, then it makes me feel good about myself. And by the time I get into that stuff, it's like, okay, the fright is gone. I don't care anymore. I'm telling people, I'm teaching people about the stuff that I know, and I just need to focus on that, and everything is fine. I mean, it's that first like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so when you first get up there. It's just, that's the hard part.
And I teach a lot, so that's like an 8-hour straight talk, basically. And what you said about cell phone, like, if your cell phone buzzes, it kind of takes you back to that starting point of your talk where you're really like thinking about everything you're doing again because you had that interruption, and then you're just like, you get in that same nervous state again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to stop holding my phone in my pocket when I teach, even, because yeah, if you get interrupted, it's basically like you're back at that square one. You might as well just have like 5 jokes prepared so that you can get interrupted 4 times and still have one for a buffer.
I used to teach. Okay, so this is fun. I dropped out of the University of Washington, and
Which time?
This is the third time. So the first time I dropped out of the University of Utah. The second time I dropped out of Seattle Central Community College, and then the third time I dropped out of University of Washington.
Okay. Just trying to get the timeline. That's all.
Yeah, I have like maybe 4 calculus books. I swear, I have like a small fortune in college textbooks in my closet.
Because none of the credits transferred and all of them required a different book.
No. The classes did require a different book, but each time the credits transferred. But the problem was my GPA was so low that I was retaking, like I kept retaking classes, right? But since I was dropping out, this is very, very bad, I guess, college strategy. Is since I kept dropping out in between, they changed the books each time I went back to school. So don't drop out. Don't drop out. It's not cost effective. What are we talking about? Yes. Okay, so I dropped out of the University of Washington, and then I started teaching a Ruby course for them. So I taught a Ruby course for University of Washington for about 2 years. And it was interesting, except that each of our classes was like 3 hours long. I don't know how anybody can do that long. Like when I give a talk that's an hour long, I'm just dead. I am dead at the end. It's like all the energy is drained out of me, and like I just want to collapse somewhere. 3 hours? Wow. I can't imagine teaching all day. It would be.
I relate to that so much because, I mean, the way you do it is you basically break it up into like 5 one-hour talks with like a lot of interactivity. To break them down, but yeah, like teaching, it's so mentally draining that you just want to like just lay in a bed face down for the rest of the night after you do 8 hours. And I hear the same thing in your voice when you say 3 hours. It's just like your brain is going the entire time, so it's so exhausting.
Not just that, but when you're giving a talk when you're trying to teach people something, you need to make sure to keep their attention. So it's not enough just to convey the information. You also have to be excited about it. You have to maintain the audience's attention. Otherwise, they're just going to drift off and not get anything from what you're trying to teach, right? So you can't just say, okay, here is the info. That's not good enough. It's not enough. So it's really draining for teachers.
So the timeline here has me with a question. Did you drop out, get on the Ruby core team, and then go to back to school and where there was a class on Ruby? Because it would be pretty hilarious if you were in a Ruby class, like an intro to Ruby, when you're on the Ruby core team.
No, I don't know if I was on the core team at the time. I might have been. I've been on the core team for many years. I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure.
Oh.
It's probably. It might be. It might be.
The professor's just saying things, and you say, "Well, yeah, that might be right now, but I'm gonna go change it," just to mess with them.
Actually, the class that I was teaching was an evening course, so it was actually really nice. I mean, and everybody in the class was already, they were all working people and all basically, my age, or so everybody had stuff in common. So it was like it was a good class to teach. It was weird though when I talked to the guy in charge, I was like, the guy hiring me, my boss, I guess, I was like, so, I dropped out of college. Are you sure it's okay if I teach this? And he's like, just don't tell anybody and you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. And it never came up in class, so, yeah.
I think that you could also could have probably deleted all of Ruby for the entirety of your semester and taught nothing, and you would have technically met your job criteria.
Oh yeah, yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Like nice little technicality there. You might want to consider next time. I think you have control to delete all of Ruby, right?
I can. It's true. Yes, I might get in trouble for it, but yes.
From everyone's computer, it just doesn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, it's gone. I can do that too. Yes.
But that's because of your magical powers, not because of core committer.
Yeah, you've seen that Star Wars, right? Where he's got the lightning from the hands. I can do that. No problem.
But with code.
Yes.
I think the other theme of this show is the main reason you're on today is because you're going to be coming to Pittsburgh for the Abstractions Conference. And you're going to be talking about how you got me right when I. See, I told you to do it when I was not expecting it, and it made such better results.
It's not gonna make any sense on the audio version.
Yeah.
No, but
I'm not gonna have any ideas.
We'll have to tell people to go into like the 30-minute mark or so and watch Aaron's tiny hands. Can you, for the video audience, recreate the following emoji? How about the praise one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then can you do? Hold on. Let me click on you so you have focus. Can you now do the hashtag blessed?
Hashtag blessed. I don't know what that is. Yeah.
That's I'm glad that we did that. I mean, now we have encouraged people to look at the video version of this. I'll use that one as the screen cap for the.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway, one of the reasons you're here today is because you're coming to Pittsburgh to talk at Abstractions in August. And one of the emerging themes that we're seeing with our invited speakers is a theme of change around software and how it's different than it was in a way. What do you think? How do you think things have changed over the time you've been doing it professionally?
Oh boy, let's think. How has software changed since I've been doing it professionally? Uh, Hold on, scratching with the little hand. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has changed. I'm trying to think of a good. I don't know, like good. One good thing to say, or one particular change, right? I'm trying to think of one particular change because it's just very slow. Like it's just very slow changes, right? We used to have when I first started programming, or when I was had my first professional programming job. Uh, no, that's not a very good story. Never mind. Ignore I said that. One thing I think is interesting, or that's changed a lot, is social media, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But like when I first started programming, there was no Hacker News, right? There was no Reddit, or nobody really had. There was no sort of pop culture around programming. You know what I mean? Like there was no hip technology. Like you didn't say, nobody was at work going, oh man, we should switch everything to Hadoop for big data. You know what I mean? Like there was no hip technology essentially. It was like, okay, we got to do this thing. Use a programming, or we use a database for it. I think the first main hip thing I remember was people saying like, oh, or the first hipness argument I remember was garbage collection. People weren't sure about garbage collection. They're like, oh, are we sure that's a good thing? And then people were like, yes, it's a good thing. This is hip now. You should do garbage collection. But the number of like I would say subjects of pop culture, like the number of them per year or per amount of time, has definitely increased. Like it gets faster and faster. It seems to be getting faster and faster as we move forward in time, right? Like the amount of time it took for some particular bit of technology to be hip back then was a lot longer, right? So garbage collection took a long time, and there was a long time span. We found out, yes, it was good. Whereas today it's like just thing after thing, like Redis, Mongo, Node, all these things coming at you so quickly, and you have to keep up with. Well, I don't even know if you have to keep up with them anymore. I don't. But I think that's what I see. That's what I see the most, is this sort of pop culture around programming. So I mean, I think it's weird. I don't think I'm I guess I'm a part of it, even though I don't really want to be, because I don't care. It is what it is. That's our life today. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that have changed. And of course, I could say stuff like, well, oh, we went from distributed computing, where, like, for example, well, no, first we started out with mainframes. I think though that was before I started going to school. Then we had we had mainframes at school, but nobody used them. To distributed stuff where people would put apps on their computers, back to centralized where we have websites and stuff, back to decentralized where we have fat JavaScript in people's browsers. And you see these things sort of swings back and forth over time. But I don't think that's as interesting as the whole pop culture thing. I think that's weird. That's weirder. Seeing swings in technology doesn't seem so weird to me. It's that, like, why do we have this pop culture thing? It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure a large part of it is like Twitter, where um, a bunch of nerdy people wanted to use a new software product, and one of the things that they could follow on there were other software engineers. And
Yeah.
just kind of created this community. It probably goes back a little further than that, but I think that was probably one of the big reasons that there's this new software fame and culture, pop culture.
Well, I think it's also that today, I suspect, I mean, I have zero numbers to back this up, but I suspect that today there are just more developers today than when I started. Like, there's just more people programming today. Like, the field has just gotten massively wider, and I can't, as I say, I'm completely speculating on this. I have no idea if it's true or not, but there's just so many more people programming today that this inevitably happens, and not to mention you have I think that programming is also getting easier. So we're widening the field. I suspect that today there are far more. Okay, this is going to be really confusing to say. Like, back when I started programming, the skill level that I was, there's a certain number of people who have that same skill level. I think today, people who have that same skill level, it's much wider. Like, there's just more people overall in total. Plus, we're pulling more people into the community because I think programming is getting easier. Like, building, for example, when Rails came out, building a website became way easier and much more, it broadened the community of people that could actually use it, right? So more people could call themselves programmers, and I think it's I think it's a very good thing. Like, I think bringing more people in is a very good thing, but it is one of the things that has changed. Like, I think it's getting easier.
And I'm wondering, I feel like it's much more viable to have a business that is software now than 10 years ago. Like, now your entire business can be your software, whereas 10 years ago your business was kind of supported by software. So like, all the software jobs were not the focus, but now, like, that can be a career path, and that can be a way to be successful and get rich, and everyone wants to do it because of you can build an entire company that way.
Oh, well, one thing that I think is pretty telling about technology, I'll tell you one thing that has changed over the course of my career, is that this Christmas, my parents bought all of the Christmas presents on Amazon. So that was like a big deal. That was a really big deal in my family. They bought all their stuff online. So, I mean, more and more people are using it. You can build your products completely online. It's just, I think our society is getting to be more and more dependent on software. So.
And who knows where it will go with this saturation of everyone buying Amazon. I think that'll just lead to a whole new level of this.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the self-driving cars. That's what I want. I'll wait to get those things.
Don't get me started on self-driving cars. We'll be here all night. I love self-driving cars. I want them so much. I want, like, everywhere, all of them.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for us to get rid of our car and just be like, we're a self-driving car. Just hit it on your app. One shows up, you're done.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I'm
okay.
right there with you.
And I can actually program while I'm on the car. Done. Think of all the time we would save. We'd save so much time. Anyway, yes.
Yep, definitely would. Yeah, Justin's probably like, they hijacked my show.
It's not the automatic car show.
No, we're talking about code and supply.
Yeah.
Code and supplies and automatic cars.
I'd have to say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's the new theme of the show: code and supply and automatic cars.
One of my favorite office supplies is paper clips. I love those. Just.
Do you know that Boeing has paper clips that look like airplanes?
Really?
Like they hand out at trade shows and stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
I wish I had one in my bag, but they're pretty sweet.
I was hoping that they only used paper clips that were shaped like airplanes in the entirety of like Boeing
All of
office.
Boeing.
Yeah.
I enjoy paper clips because they make really good. Like the cats love them. They're great cat toys. You can make them like. I don't have any paper to clip with them. I just sometimes I turn. You can turn them into a thing that jumps in the air. I love making those. That's what I do. Make it jump into the air, and then the cats are like, ah.
Aaron, do we want to know the bathroom story before we like end the show? Should we end the show on that, or like, or are we gonna regret it?
No. It's a good story. It's a good story. I told the story at RailsConf because I happened at RailsConf. I can tell you. I can tell you now if you want to hear.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Let's do it. So before I give any talk, I always go to the bathroom first, and I was giving a keynote at RailsConf, and I get even more nervous there because it's like the audience is like 2,000 people, right? You're giving a talk. I'm giving a talk in front of 2,000 people, and I'm just freaking out. So I can't think about anything, and I'm like, well, I got to go to the bathroom before I get on stage. So I go into the bathroom, and I notice there's nobody in the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I see that there is just a whole bunch of stalls, and I don't see any urinals, and I just assume that the urinals are somewhere else. So I'm like, that's fine. So I go into the stall, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, okay, gotta give a talk. I leave the stall, and I look up, and I see a janitor, and she's a woman, and I'm like, well, that's fine. I don't mind if there's a woman janitor in the men's bathroom. It's fine. Like it's fine. And then I see somebody washing their hands, and it's also a woman, and I'm like, oh no. and like that is the moment that it's sunk in. The janitor yells at me. She's like, "Get out of here!" And I'm like, "Oh no!" I'm like, "Do I wash my hands? What do I do?" And I just run out. And this is literally 3 minutes before I'm getting on stage in front of 2,000 people and giving a talk. So that was extremely nerve-wracking. But I'll tell you, so when I gave my talk that year, I just opened with that story, and everybody died laughing. They didn't believe me, and of course, like somebody tracked down the janitor to verify my story. But yeah, so another pro tip is to make sure you use the right restroom.
I don't know how I'd give a keynote after that moment.
You just have to do it.
You're on stage.
Yeah, you just gotta do it. You can't quit.
Oh. I think that was a very nice kind of high note to end all of this on. I do want to say the one way that story could have been better is if whenever you said, "Do I wash my hands?" if you raised the tiny little hands. Do I wash my hands?
Do I wash my hands? What do I do?
But yeah, I wanted to give Tiffany and Alex a last opportunity to ask questions, say thank you, and then we can close out the show and remind people about you going to Pittsburgh. So let's start with Tiffany.
I'm good. I think your Twitter account is hilarious. I just checked it out, so um
I'm sorry for any bad jokes that are on there.
no, it's great. It's great.
I, I think we all like the bad jokes.
Yeah. I'm a big bad joke fan.
I post them on Twitter because my wife doesn't laugh. Like, I tell her the joke and she's like, no. I'm like, fine, just put it on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any questions. It's been an awesome interview. It's really, really exciting to hear like your story and your perspective on a lot of things, and I'm a big fan actually. So I guess my question is, can I get your autograph?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Speaking of the new pop culture around Cody. Sign my forehead.
Sign my forehead.
I'll sign your keyboard.
Yeah. What?
Oh man, that would be sweet.
Yeah, Aaron. I want to thank you for coming on. If you want to, give a shout out to your favorite charity or something you're working on or whatever you want to do, feel free.
Sure. Yeah, thank you all. I mean, thank you all for having me on. Of course, I have to say, like, I gotta plug my job because that's what I do is work for a living, which is Red Hat. You should come work for Red Hat. And actually, all of our stuff is open source. So if you want to see our projects or the stuff we're working on, just go to my GitHub account and you'll see my history on there and stuff. So that, and also, please come contribute to Rails. We are doing our best to onboard new contributors all the time. So if you have questions or anything, ping me or ping anybody, anybody on the core team. We're happy to help you out. So if you want to get started contributing to open source software, please come talk to us. Yeah, that's basically it. And also, no, the cats are both asleep, or I'd bring them over.
Yeah, they look too comfortable.
Yeah.
Even though
Right there is Gorbachev, right there.
I was going to ask if they're both in there, because it looks like there might have been a cat behind that cat.
No. Choo Choo is up at the top there. She's right by the... She's all the way up at the top right there.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I want to use your Contribute to Rails as a little plug for one of your older talks you did at Steel City Ruby, how to get started contributing to open source. That video is online on, I believe, Confreaks, but you can just look up Steel City Ruby, Aaron Patterson. And he did a nice little walkthrough of how to get started with open source projects. So if you are interested in getting started with Rails, go watch that talk.
And of course, come to the conference.
Yeah.
We can talk about it, and I'll give you hugs, but not with the tiny hands, with my regular hands.
You don't hug with your hands, you hug with your arms. You need tiny arms to attach to those tiny hands. Yeah, we'll have Aaron back in Pittsburgh August 18th through 20th at Abstractions Conference. Abstractions.io will be formally announcing February 1st, and you'll be able to see the whole lineup, and you get to know who you can hug besides Aaron. I won't have markers on who will accept your hug, but you will see a list of people that are potentially huggable. All right, that's all we've got, and thanks for tuning in, listening, whatever you did. Bye.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.